Stanton, the National League MVP last year, swung on and drilled to deep right center field. It is high, it is far, it is gone! It is first Yankee at bat. Giancarlo non si può stopparlo. It is a Stantonian home run, a 2-run blast to right center in his first Yankee at bat, and the Yankees take a 2-0 lead.
That ball hit high and deep. Stretch! Get on back there. They look up. You can put it on the board. Yes!
The next 2-2. Davis to left and will hit. Oh my! It's gone! Santa Maria!
High fly ball into right field. She is gone! In a year that has been so improbable, the impossible has happened.
You're listening to Turn 2 Podcast, presented by Nosebleed Knowledge. Now here's your host, Tucker Franklin.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to episode 5 of Turn 2 podcast all about baseball. I'm here with my boy KB here in Britton.
How's it going?
And we're here to talk about last week in baseball. We'll start off with the big news. Shohei Ohtani damaged his UCL. At first it started to look like it was only going to be just a grade 1 strain, and he's just going to need some rest, but it's looking like he's now going to need Tommy John, could miss the rest of this year and all of 2019.
Yeah, this UCL injury, I could be wrong, but I think they were concerned about this when he started the year. They were concerned going into spring training because he had an injury going in, and that's why that was one of the main concerns about him. Tanaka had the same UCL injury, and he's fine, so I think they weren't too worried about it. But Mike Scioscia says he hasn't really heard anything about Tommy John, but the reports all around is that he's going to need Tommy John and is going to be out until 2020, which will be, it's a tough blow for one of the game's young studs. He's only, 23? So by the time he comes back, he'll be 25, 24, depending on when his birthday is. So it'll be tough. It'll be tough to see injuries take away people's talents, but we'll see.
Yeah, I was watching High Noon, Bomani and Pablo Torres' new show that they have on ESPN at 11 p.m. here at Central Time, and they were talking about if this was bad for baseball, for all their electric talent going down for Tommy John surgery. But I don't really think that it is. People have gotten so good at doing Tommy John surgery now, it's almost like an operation you can do with your eyes closed, and pitchers are able to come back strong, and you've seen guys come back from 2 Tommy John surgeries and pitch just fine.
Yeah, Tommy John, it sucks that they have to miss a year, but Tommy John surgery now really isn't what Tommy John surgery used to be even 5 years ago.
Right. Yep. Shohei Ohtani is 23 years old, by the way.
Yeah.
We'll move on. The Yanks take 2 or 3 from the Mets in the Subway Series, take over first. And not the Mets. The Mets definitely did not take over first place. The Yankees took over first place in the American League East. What did you think of that series, KB?
I thought it was as expected. That's just big brother beating up on little brother. This Mets team has got a lot of trouble in it.
Mm-hmm.
It started off the season looking bright. The future was bright, but I saw this stat, and I'm gonna get it wrong, but it was like Jacob deGrom. The Mets have lost 7 of his last 9 starts. And in his last 9 starts, he was like 1-2 with a sub-1 ERA. So it's just ridiculous that this team is that bad that they can't help one of the best pitchers in the game, get any sort of run support. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets just tear down, total rebuild, trade Syndergaard, build around DeGrom, or vice versa.
Yeah, I wouldn't actually be shocked if they trade either of them, or I mean both of them, because if you look at what they really need to do is they really need to strip down. I wrote today in my recap of this week in minor league baseball that they actually have a stud pitching prospect down there. Number 3 pitches for Class A, had a really great outing. So if you haven't seen that recap of this week, go check it out. And Jacob deGrom, former Stetson Hatter.
You know, the Mets have they've had so much that have been like stud pitchers. Like they had Steven Matz, Zach Wheeler, Syndergaard, DeGrom. Like that's what the Mets were. They were built around this young pitching. Matt Harvey, forgot about him. That starting five was the five that kind of got them to that World Series against the Royals. Mm-hmm. But they were stars that, or at least 3 of them, stars that shone too bright too quickly. They were an Icarus that flew too close to the sun, and they just Matz, Wheeler, and Harvey. Harvey's now in Cincinnati, enjoying that nightlife. Wonder how that compares to the New York nightlife. But Wheeler and Matz have never been the same. Syndergaard's been on. I think he's averaging spending a half a year on the DL, and DeGrom is just slowly silently being one of the best starters in the game, but it's got no numbers to show for it.
I agree. It's just tough to see what the Mets The Mets got to the top. Well, you could say to the top because they made it to the World Series so quick, and then they fell so quick too. Yeah,
it was a quick turnaround, kind of what we're seeing with both those teams from the 15 World Series.
It's true.
A quick rise to the top, then a quick fall back down.
You're right. We talked about this, I think, on one of our earlier podcasts, how Paul Goldschmidt has actually been really slacking at the first part of the season, but now he's on fire. He's 15 for 22 with 4 bombs over the past week, which is quite impressive.
Yeah, he is a perennial MVP contender. It was just a matter of time before he figured it out. In a division that has been, we'll say, lackluster to this point in the season, all those teams have been underachieving. It was about time that he started to figure it out. And he said himself, he said, I've been playing bad baseball, but you got to go out. We've had a lot of players in the major leagues, a lot of bigger names kind of struggling this year. And so it's nice to see Paul Goldschmidt, grade A character, start to figure it out at the plate.
Yeah, Paul Goldschmidt's good for baseball, I think. If you have a guy like that, he's one of the most underrated players. Him and Gene Segura, I don't know if you've seen the numbers Gene Segura's been putting up, but oh boy, he is tearing it up.
They are in a small market. Paul Goldschmidt's out there in the desert where nobody pays attention out there, and Gene Segura is lost up in the Pacific Northwest, and so they're not in the bright, flashy lights, and nobody talks about them.
Yeah, you know? At Gene Segura's current pace, he would finish the season with 221 hits, 121 runs, 103 RBIs, 64 extra base hits, and 36 steals.
Dude's a stud.
Yeah, and no one's talking about him because, like you said, small market.
Mm-hmm.
He actually leads the league in multi-hit games with 30.
I'll have to remember that next time I'm playing Beat the Streak.
Yeah, he's a stud. This past week, last Monday actually, there was the MLB draft. It's a really long draft. How many rounds are there? There's like 40-something in there. 30?
Yep, over 1,000 picks.
So, yeah, and you have like the first round, and then you have like the first round compensation, and then you have like another first round. It's quite a draft.
Oh yeah, it is.
And the draft finished up this past week, and the Royals drafted the Florida Gators, which is not a bad strategy since they won the national championship last year and are going to the College World Series this year.
Nope, drafted Florida's two best pitchers. You know, like you said, solid strategy. Royals are kind of in the need where they just going into the draft, they needed to pick the best talent available, and I think they did that. Brady Singer, who was a lot of people's number 2 prospect, fell to them, and Cower, he was a solid pickup too. Fell to them in the the supplemental round.
Yeah, pick 33.
Yeah, so they got 2 solid pitchers. The Royals drafted well this year. That's Dayton Moore has been killing it for you guys. Let's hope he's around to see the fruits of his labor come to fruition.
Yeah, Dayton Moore's always drafted well. I mean, he drafted Moustakas, he drafted Hosmer, and he's proven, like when we talked with Mike Engel on Nosebleed Radio, Mike Engel said that he's proven once he has these high picks, he can pick guys like Hosmer, like Moustakas. A funny tweet I saw was actually from Mike Engel. The Royals picked a bunch of college pitching and college talent to kind of speed up the rebuild process a little bit. And Mike Engel tweeted, Dayton Moore must have blocked the phrase "barely 18" on every Royals computer. That's a good, That's a good tweet.
Looking at the draft, a lot of these guys, most of the first round, if they weren't a high school senior, they were a junior at a 4-year college, and Tuck, that's us next year. So we better be, this time next year, we should be sitting around the phone just waiting for our call.
Yep, I was waiting to get one this year, I guess. They must have just passed. Want them to get my arm more mature. I mean, I can't blame them, but we'll be waiting for it next year.
Yep, we'll be sitting around the phone. Yep, of the top 10 picks, 7 of them were college juniors. So,
next up, keep the line moving. We'll go ahead and move on to the College World Series. Karen and I are actually recording this podcast late. I'm sure if you are anticipating it on Monday, you probably won't be listening to it until Tuesday or beyond, because it's now 11 o'clock, because we waited for the Florida-Auburn game to get over, and the College World Series field is set. North Carolina, Oregon State, Washington for the first time ever, Mississippi State, Texas, and Texas Tech, Arkansas, and Florida rounds out your 8 in the College World Series.
No real small. These are all big name schools. There's no Coastal Carolinas, Texas, or what was that? The
Tennessee
State
Tech.
Who did Tennessee Tech? They didn't make it. There's no Coastal Carolinas. You know, they're all big names.
Yeah, they are big names. Washington's a big name, but Washington's really never been here before, and I think Washington's more of your Cinderella story than. I mean, Tennessee Tech. That team mashed the ball. They led in home runs all of college, which is a lot of teams.
Yeah. I'm not counting it, though. I'm a stickler, my Cinderellas. I'm not giving out my glass slippers that easily.
You're prude.
I'm prude.
Had some roster moves happen this week. Cardinals call up top prospect Ponce de Leon. That's a fun name to pronounce. 13 months after taking a line drive to the head, leads Pacific Coast League in the ERA category with a 2.71. That's pretty good.
He's a solid pitcher, and his story, it's pretty amazing. The fact that I think I read that he went to 4 different colleges throughout his career, got drafted after his senior year, has fought a lot of adversity, and now he's finally made it up to the top. That line drive to his head, scary moment. Had to operate on him like the second they got him to the hospital. So, scary moment. Glad he can make it to the big leagues. And the Cardinals need him. Their bullpen has been pitching a lot of innings. And the bridge to the 9th, it's been a struggle.
Little shaky bridge.
Little shaky. Outside of Jordan Hicks and Bud Norris, there is no one I'm real confident with having the ball in their hands.
Not even Greg Holland.
Greg Holland's in the minors. He making his rehab starts.
See, so you don't trust Greg Holland.
We have Greg Holland's on the DL. Luke Gregerson's on the DL. Matt Bowman's on the DL. We have a lot of relief pitchers. A lot of our relievers are on the DL. So we've just been kind of calling up a lot of young guns to fill in.
Yeah, that's rough.
What are you going to do?
Another great, we're talking about bullpens. This guy's a good bullpen guy. Zach Britton returns to the Orioles from a ruptured Achilles he suffered in December.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. He's one of the best closers in the game, but I think the O's need to move him. This O's team is very bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they're smart, they signed Chris Davis to a huge deal, and he has been producing very little. I saw a stat, and it might have been updated since the time I saw it, but he has scored 9 runs this year, which puts him on pace to score 25 for the whole year.
Yikes.
So he is not producing. I think they need to trade Manny Machado because they could get a whole cluster. Manny Machado's not returning, and I think if you are the Orioles GM, you need to realize that. And if you don't trade him for prospects, then you are out of your mind. Because you could get
him and Zach Britton.
You find the right team. Him and Zach Britton. Yeah, if you find the right team, you could get a couple top 100 prospects. You could get several teams' top prospects for Manny Machado, and he's a rental player. He'll be a free agent, and he'll be going wherever they throw the most money at him.
If you're the Blue Jays, do you trade Manny Machado for Vlad Guerrero?
No.
Huh.
Because the Blue Jays are really bad, too.
That's true. They actually have a third baseman, too.
The Orioles and the Blue Jays are the bottom 2 teams in that division. But I saw somewhere that Manny Machado really wanted to move back to shortstop, and that was part of the reason he didn't want to go back to the Orioles. And this might be old news, but he really wanted to play shortstop and not third base because he was brought up as a shortstop.
Mm-hmm. He's got a cannon.
He does. He is a solid ball player.
Did you see that video? It was either yesterday or the day before that. It was this weekend of Nolan Arenado on that foul ball just launching one right at the chest of the first baseman.
Yeah, foul ball. That's just a little show off. I'm a big Nolan Arenado fan. I like that guy.
He's a good ball player.
Yeah.
The Rays recalled their number 2 prospect, number 20th overall, Willie Adams. Is that how you say that? Adams?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Why do people spell their names like that? Why is that E thrown in there?
I don't know.
And that's just dumb. Anyway, but then they traded Brad Miller to the Brew Crew.
Yeah, this Rays team's a little confusing. That's another team. They traded their closer on the Colome to the Mariners. They need to trade Kiermaier and Archer. They don't really have any. They don't really have anybody to build around. That's another team in that AL East division that they've been playing really well, but they need to tear it down. They're not going to fare well with this in their current state.
No, and that was one of the things that confused me going in to the season is what the Rays were doing. Because it looked like they were having a yard sale, but they didn't sell the 2 pieces that they could have got the most for.
Yeah, and then they just kind of let Corey Dickerson go. They're just like, we don't really want him that much.
Yeah, and another guy that you could get a decent amount for, they just got absolutely nothing for.
That was the team that, they traded Odorizzi. They let Logan Morrison walk. They both went to the Twins. They traded Corey Dickerson, let go of Brad Miller. I'm not sure what they're doing. I'm also not sure why they're still in Tampa, but that's another story. I'm just there are reasons why I'm not a Major League GM. Maybe I'm not seeing the big picture, but the picture's still looking pretty blurry.
Yeah, before we keep talking about prospects, have you seen this home run derby break out in Seattle? It's 5-2, and every run in that ball game has been scored off a home run.
I saw Trout hit his 20th.
Yeah,
Is that true? Every home run?
I'm pretty sure. Let's look that up. Let's fact check me right here because I'm pretty sure it was 5-2 or something like that. 2 of the Angels' home runs came off of Trout's home run, and then Pujols had a home run. And I just watched.
Wow.
Nelson Cruz hit 2. So.
Looks like I stopped playing baseball. He is super good.
Yeah.
He's like 37.
Isn't that wild? Like, that's another guy who kind of, like, fell off the face of the earth, is Nelson Cruz, because he's up in Seattle. But he's still raking. He's still mashing.
And that's a reason Seattle's tied for first. They just have these guys that are just, like you said, raking. James Paxton's throwing the lights out.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Zunino is good.
Mike Zunino is good.
So, like, they're just an underrated ball club. They are the Cinderella story of the major leagues. And they're all doing this without their best player is on the suspended list.
Right. That's the wildest thing. And the Indians, to wrap up our roster move portion of the podcast, Indians call up their top prospect, Francisco Mejia. He's number 11 overall, and he's an outfielder.
That's kind of the rich get richer. That's a good team. Just getting a little bit better.
Yeah, I know. It's not. I don't like to talk about the Indians unless we're talking about the Major League Indians. Those Indians are fun to talk about.
They are.
Move on to my favorite segment of this podcast, the MLB Pipeline Prospect Watch. Now, my favorite fella to talk about here, he is injured. Last time we talked, was he put on the 7-day disabled list last time we talked?
Yeah.
So he was put on the disabled list as a precaution. He pulled up with an apparent leg injury. But after his 7 days, looks like he'll miss at least the next month with a strained patella tendon in his left knee. He led the official cast with a 407, 457, 667 slash line with 11 homers and 55 ribbies in 53 games. That's pretty crazy that he's got 55 ribbies in 53 games.
I think the biggest his stats are unreal, but I think the biggest telling point of how good of a major leaguer he will be how he comes back from this injury. Because you look at these stats, these are stats, and he's been on a tear this entire season, the entire 53 games. But there's been no, like, adversity there. You know, he hasn't struggled. Major league scouts like to see how guys bounce back from, like, struggling. Like, I was listening to someone say, I was reading something, and they say sometimes you like to see these top prospects, sometimes you like to see them struggle for a week or two just to see, like, what changes. If they struggle at the plate, does their defense struggle? If they're struggling at the plate, how do they react in the clubhouse? So it'll be really interesting to see what Vlad Jr., how he, after this 4 weeks are up, how he bounces back.
It might be good for him, too, to have 4 weeks off, just, you know, diving into the film, checking out pitchers, getting his mind right. Because, you know, like we talk about, you know, minor leagues, that's a grind.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not the luxury of the major leagues where you get to fly from place to place. Minor leagues, you're riding the bus. You're riding the bus, eating at fast food joints.
You're riding Jerome Bettis, the bus.
Ooh, yeah.
Some players to watch here on this MLB Pipeline Team of the Week. Deion Stafford from the West Virginia Power. Stafford has an 8-game hit streak going thanks to 5 2-hit games this past week. Homered twice, drove in 3 runs on Wednesday. The catcher has hit in every game he's played in this month, raising his batting average 30 points to 293 to go along with a 346 on base and a 473 slugging percentage in his first full season of pro ball.
His first full season is in Class A?
Yeah.
That's a good starting point.
Yeah, I mean, he's not playing short season single A, rookie ball, you know.
Yeah, that's where we'll see a lot of these guys from the. I bet we see Casey Mize in Class A.
Yeah, you could
since
see
Auburn's season was done.
Oh yeah, probably Arizona League too. Next fella here on the MLB pipeline list, Ryan Nada from the Lansing Lugnuts, Class A, Blue Jays number 17 prospect. Nada started off the year slowly, but he now has a 9-game hit streak and hit 4 of his 5 home runs on the year this past week. 2 of Nada's home runs came Thursday, and he hit 1 on Friday and Saturday. His 5 walks versus 4 strikeouts should come as no surprise, as he has more walks, 56, than Ks, 50, on the season, and his .456 on-base percentage easily leads the Midwest League.
He plays first base, but it'll be, if he keeps up this tear, maybe he'll get a call up to Double-A while Vlad Jr. is not there, and the Fisher Cats are lacking some offense.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Blue Jays got some prospects. They'll be good.
They'll be good, but not a lot of them are in the top 100, which it'll be interesting to see. They won't be the flashy team that the Braves are with all these top 100 prospects they're calling up. ESPN won't be talking about them, but they have the potential 3-4 years they could be contending.
Mm-hmm. KB, what are your series to watch this week?
All right, first series, I got 2. One's a really good one, and one's a lackluster one for Tucker. On Tuesday and Wednesday, we got the Nationals facing off against the Yankees. These are 2 first-place teams facing off. You know, the Yankees are arguably the best team in baseball right now, and the Nationals have kind of had to claw back in that the NL East, overcome the Phillies and the Braves, who are young guns that have been tearing it up. So that'll be an interesting series to tell if the Nationals can really beat these powerhouses that the Yankees have proven to be.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is on the opposite end of the spectrum. We got the Cincinnati Reds at the Kansas City Royals. An interesting fact, the Royals have the opposite record of the Red Sox. I just noticed that right now.
Yeah.
Royals
bad.
are 22-4. Yeah. Wow. And the Reds aren't much better. So I think this is a chance that Royals could potentially get something started.
There's going to be some bad
gain
baseball.
some ground in the AL Central.
Those are games that not a lot of people will be at.
Yeah, teams are that good in the AL Central, so we'll see. The next series I got, battle of 2 of the top teams. We got the Boston Red Sox going up against the Seattle Mariners. Seattle's been on a roll. Boston's been a powerhouse all season. If the Nationals give the Yankees some trouble, Boston can handle the Mariners. Maybe Boston could gain a couple games or could lead back into first place. That series is a 4-gamer, Thursday through Sunday. And then my last series to watch is one of the top rivalries in baseball, the Chicago Cubs traveling to St. Louis for a weekend series, Friday through Sunday. The NL Central is highly contested. The Cardinals beat the Padres today. I think the Cubs ended up beating the Brewers in extra innings. So it'll be interesting to see. By the end of this week, there's either going to be a lot more separation up top or it's going to be even more clustered than it was when the week started. The Cardinals currently lead the season series 4-1. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited for it.
Looks like a good week of baseball.
Oh, yeah. Always is.
You know what my series to watch is the College World Series, which takes place on Saturday. The opening round of that will get underway. KB will not be with us, which we'll still do an episode of Turn 2. We'll be in different places, but I think we're gonna have a live show on. We're gonna see if we can do a little Facebook Live or something from Omaha to talk about the first day of the College World Series. It should be a good thing to keep your eye out for.
Should be a fun time. It's always a fun time up there in Omaha.
Oh, yes. You got any final thoughts, KB?
Nope.
All right. For my boy, KB Kieran Britton, I'm Tucker Franklin. Thanks for listening in to Turn 2 Podcast. Make sure to like us on Facebook, Nosebleed Knowledge. Follow us on Twitter at NosebleedSnow. We'll catch you on the flip.